What if someone says, I've lived in my little small town all my life. My parents were very supportive and they let me stay with them till I was 30. To me, you seem adventurous. You've been on your own, I think, for a while as a young person. You don't strike me as someone who's scared of picking up a phone and calling somebody. And
I strike you that way now.
Okay. So then you at one time were?
I was a shy kid. I was an observer. I grew up in the type of family where my parents are always arguing. A lot of us do. As writers, we lean into becoming observers. We detach, we distance, we watch, we observe, and that is a way of keeping ourselves safe. So I was really shy. I wasn't that bold. I didn't really approach people ever, anywhere, and the boldest I had to be in my teen years was like the first time I had to get a job. I have to talk to somebody? How does that work? And then, so flash forward into my 20s, getting this job as a development exec, the hardest thing, the scariest thing was that I had to pick up the phone and call people and build relationships. And I think for a lot of writers, that is a really scary part. So if you grew up in a small town and you've been living with your parents for a really long time, and it is like safety zone for you before you're gonna spread your wings, and maybe you're gonna move to the big city and hopefully staff in a writer's room, I bet you're a great observer. I bet you've been watching the world for a long time. There is a tiny little town really close to where I live now in San Diego. And in that tiny little town, very Stepford, you would think, oh, nothing happens there. Well, it was just busted for a massive prostitution ring. I bet you some kids in that town were like, what's going on at that house down the street, There's stories hidden everywhere. So it doesn't really matter where you came from, big city, small city, you're adventurous, you're not adventurous. You are gonna find that you're having to constantly strengthen the muscle of your courage, constantly. This is a kind of terrifying business. It kind of is, in that your dreams are on the line all the time. And that's a really scary, bold place to live. But if you've chosen this, if this is your calling, just know, okay, you're about to get your PhD in courage, in building courage. So in my own personal life, I'm a surfer. I wasn't always a surfer. I learned to surf at age 40 after my father passed away. I needed something else. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I found a great teacher, a great coach. And he started taking me out there. And it was absolutely, truly terrifying. You're facing the maw of giant waves that can kill you. And I was constantly petrified. My coach would joke I was like a cat with her claws out on the surfboard, like, oh my God, we're gonna die. And what happened was, as I started getting a little better at it, and I could read the water a little better, and I was starting to get a little more form. I could go down the line on a surfboard. Oh, it was so fun. But then sometimes a crazy wave comes, and it's terrifying, and you're in the wrong place, and it takes you out. But then you get into shore, and you're like, oh, I survived. I'm okay. There's probably something that you survived in your life where you made it to shore, and you went, oh my God, I'm okay. I'm here. I made it out. And you know what happened is, if you survived that, you got a little braver. You got a little bolder. Maybe you felt like, oh, I survived that. I could face off something difficult again. I'm an entrepreneur now. I run the entertainment business school. So I constantly need to pick up the phone and call people who are seemingly, 10 times more successful than me. But I'm like, I'm gonna make their day awesome. I'm gonna bring some joy into their day. I'm gonna see how are you doing? What's happening in your life? Let's get to know each other a little bit. I've learned that facing something terrifying like the ocean that actually can kill you, that has sharks in it, means that picking up the phone or having a meeting or going to meet with an exec or a producer is like, this is easy. I faced death this morning. So if you find something in your life that takes your courage muscle to the gym. That's what surfing is for me, but there's a lot of other things. It might be Toastmasters. Whatever it is for you that's like, how can I get braver? That's gonna make this industry so much more fun for you, because you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I can trust that courage muscle is gonna hold me up when I go into that meeting. I lean on it all the time. I'm nervous. I get scared. I'll get into an elevator for an important meeting and like jump up and down and shake out my hands and go, okay. And just go, okay, I know how to do this. I'm a little older, I have a little more experience. I have a little bit of life experience behind me and business experience behind me. And then you just start to realize, like if you've read a book like the How to Win Friends and Influence People. So that's like a go-to book. If you haven't read it, it's 100 years old. Go pick up How to Win Friends and Influence People, because you'll find that everybody out there in life is just as scared as you are. And they don't want to be bored. And they don't want to endure pain. And if they're going through a sequence of meetings, like they want a little sparkle on the water. They want it to be fun and joyful and awesome. So if you just decide, I may be terrified of this, but I'm gonna go into this meeting and like make it awesome for everybody there. I've had this happen a bunch and seen it happen for my students as well, which is like, they didn't buy my show, but they told me to call them the next time I'm taking something out. Because you made it awesome for them. And now you have a relationship and they like you and they like your writing. And yeah, you've got to get through the heartbreak of, oh, they didn't buy my thing. But they like you and they want to have a relationship with you so you can go back to them the next time. And that is how this industry works. It's about making friends. None of us are taught how to make friends in school. I wasn't, you probably weren't. Most of my students weren't taught how to make friends. I have inside of my classes, I have mixers wherein I bring in questions. Let me give one to you. That is like my favorite question to ask anybody. On my podcast, on Hollywood Wolfpack, inside of meetings that I take, what are you the most passionate about right now? And somebody can answer that any way they want. It might be a relationship answer or a career answer or a trip that they're so excited to take. Let's say you go into a general meeting with an exec and you just flip the question around on them. They've asked you a bunch of questions. You say, well, what are you most passionate about right now? And they're like, oh, well, I leave in a week for Thailand and I've never been and I'm so excited. You already know what your follow-up email is to them, because you're gonna say, when are you getting back from Thailand? And then when they get back, you're gonna wait a day and send an email that says, I was thinking about you. How was Thailand? I wanna hear all about it. Now you're building a relationship. Now you're learning what they're passionate about. That is a go-to question. I feel like everybody in Los Angeles, where I grew up, makes the mistake of, so what do you do? This is the constant question. You'll be besieged with this question. At every party, everywhere you go, anyone who's dating you, what do you do? Are you important?
Can I use you for something?
Yeah, how are you gonna help me with my career? But if you instead turn it into, what are you the most passionate about right now? I've seen attorneys come alive and get excited. I've seen legacy producers who, have big names go, what an interesting question. And get to talk about like the fact that their kid made the basketball team cut and they're so excited to go celebrate and like cheer them on in the games. And you start to really see how human everyone is. And then you start to find, oh, this person will take my calls and now we have a friendship and we go get drinks together. And then because you're meticulous, because you're probably a good student, right? At some point where in your life, a student of the industry or a student in school, you're gonna go maybe keep a little notepad that's like, went to Thailand back on January the 15th, or, son is going into the basketball team, or, they're whatever that might be. And you're gonna kind of take those notes so that as you get to know people, develop those relationships, you wanna connect with them about what they care about. It's not always work. Sometimes it is. When things are going right and all the trains are running and things are like happening and you have something going, like I'm newly producing, we just attached a director to our movie, we're so excited. That's a moment to be like, how's work going? Oh my God, let me tell you, I'm so excited about our director. I just saw the deck, it looks fantastic. Yay! But that's not like every day. So I'm a Buddhist and I have a Buddhist teacher by the name of Rinpoche Pema Chondro. And the last time I sat with her, she said, we have so little happiness for ourselves in this life. There's not like that many moments or markers. You get married, your child is born. I mean, there's a few big ones. Every once in a while, I'm dating someone new, it's really exciting. Those are a few moments, but there's not like that many. You're not gonna sell a show every other week. You can't rely on that for the dopamine hit that your brain needs. But if you celebrate the happiness of others, you multiply your happiness. So in this industry, if you can like let go of the envy, oh, I wish I sold the show and they're working and I'm not. If you can let the envy go and set it aside and go, I can celebrate your happiness, and you just sold a show, and oh my gosh, you just got into partnership with that producer, and you start to celebrate others, your happiness is gonna amplify tenfold. This is what I love to see in the entertainment business school with all my students, is they start to discover how awesome each other are, and then go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to read your script, and oh, you finished a short and I'm gonna watch it, and they start to celebrate each other, and it just becomes a vortex of more joy. I mean, you're not probably gonna change your internal makeup. If you're a little bit depressive like I am, you're gonna default there. That's kind of like the groove that you fall into. What are you gonna do? But it becomes a little bit more of a practice. And when I'm feeling kind of low, I start to look for, okay, well, who can I celebrate? I look for where can I, enjoy that joy and then feed it back. I'm so happy for you. You're doing it, you're making it. And that for me now, I'm 48, so this is part of the joy in my life. I was mentored by Garry Shandling. I worked for Garry. And he was always reading everybody, all his friends. There was always a pile of scripts on his desk. He was always championing and celebrating his wolf pack. And I remember the first time I saw Garry order flowers for one of his friends who had a movie come out, movie premiere. And it was a guy. This is how silly I was, right? So it's 2007 and I'm like, you're a guy sending another guy flowers? You're a straight guy sending another straight guy flowers. It just did something to my brain. But then Garry was like, why wouldn't I send him flowers? He's my buddy. I want to celebrate him. Send him this giant bouquet. Congratulations on your movie. And I was like, men love receiving flowers. I was like not even 30 at that point. And it was such a realization of like, how well do you celebrate others? Because that's how well you're going to be remembered or appreciated, and how much more joy you'll have in your life. When I knew Garry, he was already on the backside of his career. He was working on the DVDs for the Larry Sanders Show. He's working on all of the bonus segments that ended up going into the DVDs. And from that point forward in his career, he didn't ever run another show. He was doing some acting here and there. He was like the Senator and Iron Man and things like that. But he never had another huge hit. I remember Sarah Silverman in the Judd Apatow documentary about Garry, the Zen Diaries of Garry Shandling, say he had 2 home runs. He had It's the Garry Shandling Show and the Larry Sanders Show. So he had 2 home runs, but really he had 3 home runs, because then he had all of us. Because the 3rd home run in his life was getting to celebrate and love on everybody in his sphere who would come play basketball on Sundays and, write with him or just hang out and laugh together. And I took that really to heart. And it changed the way I think. It changed who I am as a person, seeing how he was with others. And I think up until that point, I had been making the mistake that a lot of writers do, which is thinking it was about me and my craft. Solo. I mean, I was a novelist, so I was working on Written in the Ashes at the time and going, I'm writing this book and it's going to be about me and this book and my next book, and very myopic, without even realizing that I was closing myself off to community. And so I'm always encouraging my students, if you're a writer, do a script swap. Read somebody else and ask to be read and say, hey, and at every level of the industry, we all need to have somebody to put eyes on our work. And then we grow and we integrate notes and we learn who someone else is. And then that is a way to start to grow your wolf pack. Wherever you are in the world, you don't have to be in LA or New York, but you can get on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, and some of the wonderful courses out there like mine, like ISA, like Roadmap Writers, and say, how do I connect with others in the business? Can I read you? Would you like to do a script swap? I have one about a monster. Oh, great, you have one. And then, okay, great. And then you swap and give each other notes, and then you start to get to know who the other writers are. You'll find partners collaborating. You'll maybe even get warm handoffs to representation. Around the early pandemic times, not a lot of people know this, the WGA polled their members and said, where do most of your jobs come from? If you're like me, I assumed that it was going to be like, well, managers and agents, of course, but it was actually like only 50% managers and agents. It was 50% other writers. So that means a writer reads you and then they get staffed and then they go, oh, but I want my buddy in the room. And because I've read her and her work is fantastic and her voice would be great at this table. So writers are recommending each other because they've been reading each other, and it helps showrunners who have a stack of 400 scripts to read when they're staffing their own rooms go, well, who do you recommend? They're asking the writers who they've worked with, who have you read, who I should be reading? And then that puts your script on their short stack. This came recommended from another writer who I trust, and that will really help your career.